Have you always dreamt of moving to your favorite country in the world, but you never made the leap? Consider this as your sign to take the first step. Hi there, my name is Veerle, but you can call me V. Over the past 10 years, I have lived in 4 different countries: the Netherlands, Spain, Cambodia, and Australia. And in this video, I'm going to share how you can move abroad too, and how I did it with my personal experiences and in my journey with all the ups and downs. Besides having moved abroad myself, over the past decade I also helped hundreds of expats with their dreams of moving abroad. Use this guide as your first step to get started, and who knows, maybe in a few months you will be moving abroad as well. Some years ago, I was someone who was stuck in 9 to 5, the typical cubicle, and I was really wondering if there was something else out there for me in the world. I really wanted more. I really craved the adventure, and I really wanted to make it happen. And maybe you feel the same too right now. And you're wondering, okay, how can I move abroad? And you already feel overwhelmed about all the steps that you need to take. I totally get it. I've been there too. And I also know how scary it can feel to take the step. It's not that easy to just step out of your comfort zone and move somewhere else. Maybe you see everyone doing this on social media, traveling around, and you wonder, why does it look so easy for them, and why am I struggling to even take the first step? Trust me, I totally get it. So that's why I created this video, to help you take those first steps. Because after the first step, the rest will follow and it becomes so much easier. So before we dive into all the practical tips that I want to share with you, the first step is to envision your dream life abroad. What does that even look like? Where do you want to go? Maybe you think, okay, why is this important? Why do I need to do this? Just give me the practical tips. But trust me, if you start with this in your process, the rest of the process will become so much easier. So how can you envision your move and your new life abroad? What I like to do is journal, for example, and really write down what my perfect day in this life abroad would look like. What am I doing? What am I wearing? Who is around me? Who are my friends? Like, picture this and write it down in all the details that you can imagine. This will really help you to rewire your brain already and to think about that this is actually possible for you, so that it really starts to turn from a dream into a plan. Another way to do this is through a meditation or visualization. And how I do this is that I close my eyes and just take a few deep breaths to get into the moment. And then I imagine what my ideal life would look like abroad. And if you want some help with this, in the description below this video, I have added a link to my free meditation library that you can just access and use for this journey as well. Okay, after all this envisioning, it's time to get into the practical information. How are you going to make this happen? First of all, do your research. Without having all the information, your move abroad is not going to happen. And you don't need to know everything, but at least you need to know the basics of what you're getting yourself into. And maybe you don't even know where you want to move abroad yet. So then you have to start with comparing the countries that you put on your list. What are the pros and cons? What are the different things? What are the different lifestyles? Is, for example, the cost of living in each country, the climate, the culture? Collect everything that you're curious about and that you want to know. And how can you get that information? Of course, you can just Google, but it's easy to get overwhelmed because there's so much information out there. So if you want to be more specific in your research, what you can do, for example, is to join online communities. For example, a Facebook group. And you have a lot of groups for people who have moved abroad already. So, for example, what I did when I moved to Australia, I would look for a group called Dutchies in Australia or Dutchies in Sydney. And you can do this for yourself too. And you will find that there are so many groups of people from your country moving to another country. And because it's so specific, they can also help you. But it's also good to remember that everyone's situation is unique. So even if someone gives you some tips and advice, it's always based on their personal situation. So you can use it as inspiration, but always be mindful that maybe the situation is a little bit different for you. Another great way is to follow people online who have moved abroad already to the place you want to go to. Or, for example, watch YouTube videos like this one. So it's great that you're watching this right now so that you can really prepare yourself and that you actually know what you should think about. Because if you don't know it, how do you even know what to prepare for, right? And yes, sometimes it's very easy to get overwhelmed by all the information out there. So make a checklist for yourself. But if still that's not enough and you feel very stressed and you're maybe scared that you forget something in the preparation process, just get some help. Works with a professional who has gone through the process or who has helped other people with this as well. You really don't have to figure everything out by yourself. There's also another important thing to consider before you move, and it's related to the research. Budget for your move. Moving abroad can really be expensive. Of course, it depends where you move to, but there are always plenty of costs involved that maybe you haven't really thought about yet. Also, are you going to ship everything? Are you going to take your luggage, or are you just taking one suitcase or one backpack and that's it? Also, think about other costs. For example, the cost of your visa, the cost of tickets itself. For example, if you're going in a work situation, is your employer paying for your tickets or for any other relocation costs? Or if you want to study abroad, is the university you are collaborating with paying for your visa, for example? If you're thinking about renting a place, a good way to approach it is to have at least 1 or 2 months of savings for the rent. Usually you have to pay a deposit as well. So make sure you save up some extra money so that you can cover all of those costs. But also think about the utilities, all those bills or unexpected taxes that maybe you're not used to in the place you're living at right now. So really create an overview of your possible budget so that you don't have too many unexpected surprises when you move. Get your visa and start on time. Of course, you don't need a visa for all destinations, but if you're thinking about moving somewhere long term, the chances are that you do need a visa. I've been someone who has worked in the visa industry as a visa specialist and lawyer for over 8 years now. And I know that the visa process can be very stressful. So that's why I want to share a bit more about how this process works from my own personal and my professional experiences. As I said before, it's great to get information, like general information from the internet, but you really have to think about what applies to your situation. And some visa processes are more complicated than others. There are also plenty that you can really easily arrange yourself. Think about a working holiday visa, for example. It's just pretty easy for most countries to which this applies to. You just have to fill in some personal information on a form, upload a few documents, and that's it. So you can usually pretty much do that yourself. More complicated visas, you might need some extra support. But for example, if you're thinking about moving somewhere for work, your employer might be able to arrange the visa for you. So that would make the process much easier as well. And another common visa is, of course, also a student visa. If you're planning to study abroad, usually the university can help you with the visa process as well. And if you're planning to become a digital nomad, or you are the digital nomad already and you're planning to move countries, there's so many options these days for digital nomads, and those visa processes are usually pretty easy as well, and something that you can arrange yourself. You just have to be very aware of the documents you need. First of all, of course, a valid passport, and usually it has to be valid for at least 6 months. So that's something that you really should check before you arrange anything at all. And besides that, for some types of visas, you also need your birth certificate or a diploma. And the diploma, it really depends on the country you're moving to and the language your diploma is in, because sometimes you need to translate it by an official translator. And besides that, it sometimes also need to be recognized by an official institution who recognizes your degree so that it's valid in the country you want to move to. Also, think about the processing times. Just get that information before you apply, because you might be arranging your whole move already and then realize that the visa might take a few months or even longer. And then, your whole process will become a mess. Another thing that can be really helpful to prepare before you move is learning the local language. And of course, it depends where you're moving to. Maybe the country speaks the same language as that you're already speaking. But if you have to get used to a new language, it's best to start preparing yourself beforehand. That will make the transition process so much easier, because in the beginning it can be quite confusing if you don't speak any word at all. So just start with the basics and have fun with it. You can use online learning apps like Duolingo or Babel, or you can just sign up for a course, maybe meet some other people along the way and have some fun before you move. Packing strategically. When you move, it's really essential to think about what you really need and what you can let go of. And it really depends on how you want to move. Are you planning to be a minimalist and only take the essentials, just put everything in one suitcase or one backpack and leave everything behind, or maybe even sell everything that you have right now? Or do you actually want to take your whole house basically to the next country and really need to get a container to ship your stuff? And then still, if you decide to do that, there are still so many things that you probably don't really need. So actually, this is a great opportunity to declutter and really let go of everything you don't need anymore. Okay, if you have figured all of this out, I think it's time to move. So first of all, finding your new home. In my personal experience, it's easier to find a home when you have already moved. So what I did was to arrange some temporary housing, like a temporary apartment for a few weeks or a hotel. And it's also less risky because what happens sometimes, and I've heard this from friends as well, luckily I haven't been through it myself, is that they, for example, signed a contract before they moved and then they arrived at that place and maybe didn't even exist, or the landlord wouldn't just respond and it seemed to be all a scam. And also, I think for me personally, it's also nicer to view places and see what you like, but also to look around in the neighborhood and get the vibe. Explore different parts of the city first and see where you want to live. And that's a great way to start your planning as well. Ask yourself, how do you actually want to live? Are you looking for a place alone, or are you moving with your partner? Are you looking for a place together, or are you looking for a place with flatmates? How many? What type of lifestyle do you want to have? Are you looking for just a room in an apartment, a whole apartment, a house? All of those questions, it really helps to ask yourself those before you move. Because once you get there, it can be really overwhelming. And then maybe at a certain point, you're like, okay, I don't even know what I want anymore, right? So really put that on paper for yourself. And what I said before about envisioning your life abroad, you can also write this down. In my personal experiences, I think I have been through a lot of different scenarios. For example, when I moved to Spain, I was 20 and I didn't really think about any risks. I was just excited to move. So I actually already arranged the room that I was going to rent before I moved. And I didn't think about any risks. But eventually, luckily, everything worked out fine for me. But then when I moved to Cambodia, I first booked a hostel for the first few days so that it gave me some time to look around. When I moved to Australia, my job arranged a temporary housing for me, so that was pretty easy. I didn't have to do anything myself. And then afterwards, when I decided to stay longer, I had to find my own place. So what I did is I joined some groups online where people post possible rentals. And I just attended a lot of viewings. So I would go to a viewing and just see if I liked the apartment and the room, but also if I felt connected to the people already living there. Because that's important too. You have to feel comfortable. It's already quite uncomfortable when you move somewhere completely new. So at least you want your home to feel like home. And with renting places, really look into what the processes are to rent as well, so that you know what the rules are and also what you need to prepare. Sometimes you just have to be very quick, or you have to already show all of your documents before you even get a viewing. So the faster you are and the more papers you have prepared already, it can really make a huge difference in the process and in your chances to actually get the place that you really like. Also, be prepared for a deposit. Of course, these rules are different per country, so really look into what applies to the country you're moving to so that you don't have any surprises, because sometimes that can really add up. In my experience, sometimes I had to pay a deposit of at least 3 months' rent, and that's quite a lot, especially in countries like Australia and the Netherlands. Besides housing, there are also plenty of other things that you still need to arrange when you have just moved abroad. You think, oh, I'm finally there. Now it's going to happen. But, the first few weeks can still sometimes feel a little bit overwhelming. First of all, you want to get a local phone number. This is super helpful for anything else that you need to arrange. But in the beginning, if you don't have a home address yet, it might be hard to sign a contract. Many phone companies don't accept it. So what you can do in the meantime is to get an eSIM. You can just get it on your phone. You don't need an address, and it helps you to just connect and arrange everything else that you need to arrange. And later on, you can always switch to a local telephone contract anyways if you want. Also, make sure to arrange a local bank account. Of course, you need this, for example, to pay your rent or if you're working to receive your salary. But in the beginning, maybe it's not possible yet because you don't have a fixed home address yet. What you can do in the meantime, and I really recommend that also during the moving process, is to open an online bank account. You have plenty of companies now who offer that, but really do some research and see which one you like. And usually the process is very easy. You can just open it online and transfer some money from your currency on the account. And then when you need the money in a different currency, once you have moved abroad, it's super easy. You usually have a debit card as well with that, or you have the card on your phone. So you can always access your money in different currencies as well. Another thing not to forget is to take care of your health situation. If you have any medical health issues, make sure you know that you can access the medicines that you need to. Do some research beforehand as well so that you don't have to worry about that. And make sure that you register yourself at the local doctor as soon as you can. Sometimes you also need to arrange a health insurance right away, or maybe you still have a travel insurance. So look into those things as well and don't forget them. I know all of this can feel like a lot to take in, but trust me, if you take it step by step and if you create a checklist for yourself, it is doable. Really take one thing at a time, one day at a time, and I'm sure you got this. It is really possible. So you finally made it. After this whole preparation process, you arranged everything, and now it's finally time to settle down. But that's sometimes when the emotional roller coaster can really start. And I've gone through this myself. In the beginning, you have this adrenaline and you're just arranging everything and you're excited, you're exploring, and you're really building this new life abroad. But then after a while, you're like, okay, how am I actually really going to live my life here? What does that look like? And that can also sometimes be really challenging. Think about challenges like language barriers or culture shock or loneliness or homesickness. I'm not going into all these challenges in detail because I've recorded another video about that. So if you haven't watched that video yet, you can watch it after this and I will go in through the challenges and how you can overcome those challenges as well. So just a few other tips beside these challenges, just to make your process a bit smoother, is first of all, how are you going to make new friends? This is often something that people are scared about and they feel like, oh, what if I feel lonely? And it's still possible to feel lonely, but it's really about becoming your own best company. And I know how cliche that sounds and that it's often not so easy and it doesn't always work like that. But just try to enjoy yourself while you haven't really met new friends yet. And just take yourself on a date in this new city. And maybe you're not moving by yourself. That's usually easier if you have a partner or a friend that you're moving with. But if you move abroad alone, really don't focus on that part that you are alone, but really try to see the benefits of it. You are just by yourself and you can literally do whatever you want. So explore the city, have fun. What I, for example, did when I moved abroad alone, close to my apartment was a cute little coffee place. So I would go there a few times a week, and after a while, the owner and the waiter started to recognize me. And it's often those little things that can really help us to transition smoother into a new place. Besides that, if you're wondering how you can make new friends, a thing you can do, and what I did, was to join Facebook groups in the city that I moved to. But you also have an app called Meetup, where people put activities and organize events to meet new people. And it can really feel out of your comfort zone to just go to something like that and show up as someone who doesn't know anyone yet. So I would really recommend you to find an activity that you are already enjoying doing right now. So for example, if you love painting, sign up for a painting workshop because that part is at least in your comfort zone. And then meeting new people becomes much easier because you already have some shared interests. What I did, for example, with all my moves abroad was I would find a place to dance. I love salsa dancing, And I would just find some parties to go social dancing. And it was so easy to meet new people like that because I would go to something that I knew I would already enjoy doing. And then I would just connect with people there, enjoy the music, and create new friendships. It's really about being patient and really seeing what you value and what you're looking for in a friendship. Besides that, I would also recommend not to stay in the bubble of only meeting with internationals. It can feel very safe to do that because maybe you speak the same language or you are going through the same experiences. And in the beginning, that's totally fine. But eventually, you also want to connect with locals so that you will feel part of the local community as well. Because otherwise, you really will be stuck in sort of this expat bubble and you miss out on connecting with the local culture and community, which eventually really helps you to feel at home more. One of the most important things to remember while you're settling into your new environment is that you can take control over your own happiness. It can feel very overwhelming and stressful in the beginning, but really focus on why you moved, why you took this step. What works for me, for example, is journaling and meditation, but also going for a walk in nature or just walking around. It's also a great way to explore new places, but also it can really help you to become more present in the moment and calm yourself. You got this. I know this was a lot to take in, a lot of information, but just take it step by step. If you follow the steps that I shared with you today, there's no way that your move abroad will not become a success story. I know that it's very easy to hold yourself back because of limiting beliefs or self doubt or insecurity. So ask yourself, what is one step that I can take today to work towards my dream of moving abroad? What is the first step that I can take today? If you want more support in envisioning your dream life abroad and taking those first next steps, I've created a free guide to feel at home away from home, which helps you to reflect on how far you've come, where you are at right now, and where you want to go. So it's a beautiful way to really get started in the process. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to stay updated about moving abroad, living abroad, and travel. And if you have any questions about any of the topics that I shared about today, just ask away in the comments and I will respond and connect with you there.